What's up, millennials? A few days ago, I sold Switchback Energy. Don't worry though, I didn't sell everything, I just sold like 1/3 of my position. In exchange for your time and hopefully a like as well, I am going to give you my reasons for why I sold my Switchback Energy shares. Now, before we do so, I would like to know if you hold Switchback Energy shares as well, what are you going to do in the short term? Let me know in the comments. Okay, with that being said, let's get started. Almost 1 month ago, I did a video about the valuation of ChargePoint, and in that video I said that a high valuation at that point for ChargePoint was around $32.49. Now, if you've been following the price of Switchback Energy lately, you probably know that we already crushed those valuations. So even the high valuation is already crushed because we are above that high valuation of $32.49. But in a different video that I did about ChargePoint and where I used the investor's presentation, I also talked about a few additional tailwinds, right? And we can see some of them here on the screen right now. First of all, the fossil fuel bans, right? Because we now know that the UK, the United Kingdom, will ban fossil fuel cars by 2030. California is also going to do that by 2035, I believe. Quebec, the province in Canada, is going to do so as well by 2035 as well. And I believe that the next couple of months, couple of years, there are going to be more cities, more provinces, and more countries as well banning fossil fuel cars. Now, another additional tailwind is, of course, Biden as the president of the United States, right? He's been saying that he is going to stimulate EV adoption. He wants to build many new charging stations all around the United States. And apart from that, we also see that people are not just focusing on electrical cars, but also on electric buses, right? So we've seen a new SPAC on the block, which is called Arrival. And Arrival is going to start with the electrifications of public transport. Some buses are already being transported electrically, so to say. But yeah, I think that's going to create a boom in electric buses in the future as well. And I actually believe that ChargePoint could be a beautiful company to actually look at charging stations for buses. So all in all, with these additional tailwinds, the fossil fuel bans, Biden as president, electric buses, I think the valuations of my previous video about ChargePoint were probably still on the low end. So what do you think? How do you think these additional tailwinds are going to affect ChargePoint's stock price? About 1 month ago, I bought 150 shares of Switchback Energy for an average price of $15.75. So in total, it was an order of almost $2,400. Now, for me personally, that's already a relatively big position because usually my positions are around $1,500 per stock, more or less, right? So Switchback Energy actually became my biggest position while I bought the stock already because I was just very confident in this stock because of all the research that I did about this company. Now, a few days ago, I did sell 1/3 of my position. In total, I sold 50 shares at an average price of around $37.50. So in total, that's a little bit more than $1,800. And the reason is why, right? Why did I sell my shares, or why did I sell 1/3 of my position in ChargePoint? Well, partially because of the valuation. We just talked about the valuation that I talked about in the previous video, right? The price of ChargePoint, or the price of Switchback Energy rather, went above $40, which was quite a bit higher than the highest valuation that I had given in my video about the valuation of ChargePoint, which we just looked at. But the other reason was technical analysis. And what I want to do is I want to go a little bit deeper into the technical analysis reason for selling my shares, selling 1/3 of my position. Before the market opened, I already decided that I wanted to take off about 1/3 of my position because I saw that the price already shot up to more than $40 per share, right? So I wanted to sell 50 shares. I had already decided that. And my plan was to actually try and sell 30 shares first and then 20 shares later, which is exactly what I did in the end. So why did I do that? Because of technical analysis. Well, first reason was mainly because of the RSI on the daily chart. Right here, we are looking at the daily chart. And if we go to the RSI, which is this one over here, we can see that it went above 80. And above 80 is usually the overbought territory. So usually that means that if it gets above 80, then the indicator is a little bit too high, and it's very likely that the indicator, and therefore also the price, is going to come down afterwards. We've seen a similar read a while ago, which was right over here in, let's see, that was in September, the end of September, where it also came above 80, and right afterwards, when it went up almost even to 96, that's a very high number, by the way, on the RSI, it crashed down. Now, if we go back to that time period, if you zoom in a little bit, we can see that that actually produced a nice downward move. If we measure it from the top to the very bottom, it will be 22%. If you measure it from the top to the closing bottom, so to say, it would be almost 15%. So that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to sell some shares during that day. Now let's talk about time frames for a second, all right? Because usually what I do is I base my decisions basically on the daily chart. We are right now on the daily chart. Every candlestick, every vertical bar is 1 day of price action. Sometimes I also go to the weekly chart to see how the weekly chart looks, especially for stocks that have already been around for a long time. Not for this one because Switchback Energy hasn't been around for a long time. But sometimes when things get a little bit crazy, I like to go down to a 1 hour chart, which is, a little bit more detailed, so to say. But actually on the day that I sold 1/3 of my position, I actually looked at the 15-minute chart first because things were acting so crazy, right? I went to the 15-minute chart. Let's first look at why I sold the first 30 shares, all right? And as we can see in my broker account, we can see that I sold this around 1930 my time, right? Local time at, let's see, $38.75. Now, if we go back to the charts, if we go back to the 15-minute chart, I mainly did this for 2 reasons. First of all is going to be the trend line. Let's zoom a little bit in. Let's go here. And as we can see, 1930, that was around this time. So this candlestick, right? The thing is, I saw 2 things. First of all, a trend line. I believed while I was watching the price action during this day that we had this trend line going on. So we created a nice trend line where this was created as support, then it acted as support here again, acted as support here again, and then around 1930, it actually went below this support and closed a candlestick below that trend line as well. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to sell some shares at that price point. And as we can see, the price action actually went down quite a bit afterwards. The other reason for selling 30 shares at that exact time was because the RSI seemed to be trending below the exponential moving average. The RSI, which is this blue line over here, is a strength indicator, so to say, and the white line is the exponential moving average on the RSI. Now, the RSI already broke below the exponential moving average, the EMA, right here, which was a few hours before I actually sold those 30 shares. But right here around 7 o'clock p.m. my time, it actually started to stay below the exponential moving average. The exponential moving average actually started to act as a resistance line. So that was my second reason for actually selling that first batch of 30 shares. And then almost 1 hour later, I sold the second batch of shares, which in this case was 20 shares. And I sold these at a price of $35.43. Now, if you go back to the charts, we're now on the 1 hour chart because I actually went back to one of my more normal time frames, right? The 1 hour chart. And here I had just one major reason for selling the rest of the shares that I wanted to sell at that time, at that day. And that reason was the 8 exponential moving average. The 8 exponential moving average, a very difficult word, is actually this yellow line over here. We can actually take off the rest of the line so it becomes a little bit more clear. Let's take off the rest of these and let's just look at the yellow line over here. This line is the 8 exponential moving average, meaning that it's a calculation of the average price of the last 8 days, giving more importance to the last couple of days instead of the first couple of days. That's why it's called the exponential moving average and not just the normal moving average. And the thing is, what I saw was that the price action had been riding this trend line almost, the 8 exponential moving average, for a long period of time. It actually started on the 16th of November, and then it traded just above that 8 EMA all the time. As we can see, it never closed below that 8 EMA. But here on the 24th of November, so the day that I sold my shares, for the first time in 8 days, it actually started to cross below the 8 EMA, and it also closed below the 8 EMA. So when that candlestick confirmed that it was trading below the 8 exponential moving average, I thought, okay, now it's time to sell the rest of the shares that I want to sell at this point. And now if we zoom in a little bit here, we can see that the 8 EMA is almost used as a resistance line, right? We can see that the price action just tries to trade below the 8 EMA. And also another interesting thing is if we go back here and pull up the 21 exponential moving average, so the average price of the last 21 days, or not 21 days actually, I might have said days before, but I meant time period, so 1 hour time periods in this case. We can see an interesting thing happening here as well, because now the 21 exponential moving average is actually starting to be used as a support line, the 8 EMA as a resistance line, and we're now trading below or between these two lines. Now, at some point in the future, I suppose the next coming trading days, we're going to be forced into a decision. We could either break up to the upside or we could break down and go to the downside. Personally, I think that the downside is way more likely than the upside, but yeah, I could be wrong there, of course. Now, I can imagine that there are a lot of people out there saying, well, okay, where do you think the price is going to, right? What are your price targets? And for me, honestly, that's very hard to say, mainly because we have a so-called blue sky breakout, which means that, well, we don't have any previous price action to reference to. We're just shooting all the way up, and yeah, we don't have any price action over here, which we could use as like a support line or a trend line or something like that. So what I'm going to do the next couple of trading days is I'm going to be looking at this chart very closely the next couple of days, weeks, probably even, right? If this goes down like 20% or more, then I'd be very happy to add more shares again. Can it go back up? Can I be completely wrong? Of course I can, but that's also why I didn't sell like 100% of my position. I just sold 1/3 of my position. And yeah, I just think that it's more likely that it goes down, but that doesn't mean that it's going to go down in 100% of the cases, right? I think right now, I think it's more like an 80 or 70% chance that it's going down. So there you go, a deeper look into why I sold 1/3 of my position, partially because of the high valuation of ChargePoint of Switchback Energy and partially because of technical analysis. If you own shares of Switchback Energy as well, let me know in the comments what are your plans for this stock in the short term. Alright, with that being said, thank you very much for watching and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!